So the mechanical principles continued. All of the things that we were doing before were done through a piece of material or from one end. So I'm going to do a slit. And you know, this isn't a hugely thick piece of material, it's probably half inch or something like that. But I wanted to show you this chisel. This is kind of a variant of the, I believe Asbury calls it a, let me just hand it to you.
Thank you.
A caped chisel, I believe is what he calls it. So I was playing around with tools to slit axe eyes. I like people to do everything by hand before they start using machinery. So because of this end profile, it's basically got like a diamonded end profile to it. It's kind of like this. So this will always create this kind of style opening. So if you want to make a slit, I'm trying to get my words right. This purely a reminder to myself that I am supposed to be saying a slit and not all other variances. So if I want to make a slit that is the same length as that chisel, easy. I stick it in and I go straight on down. You'll notice that it is slightly wider here than it is here. It is also slightly thicker than it is here to here. So you have to be careful because of that, that this tool doesn't go in, it goes into the hole and it opens up the hole, and then when you try and pull it out, it binds up on these corners. But what's nice about it, you can in fact strike it sideways, right? Which will open that hole. We'll turn it this way, strike down, which will open that hole up a little bit in width rather than breadth. If you want to do a slit that is longer than this, you do it multiple times and you keep cutting down. And the angle is beneficial here because when you come on the near side, you angle that so that this is straight and you can come down at it. And then when you do the far side, you angle it this way so it is straight. I've tried all sorts of different profiles here, and I've found that quite a heavy arc, I suppose that is probably a 2-inch radius, something like that, maybe 1.5. I found that that is about the best. I've also found if you look at it, it's not sharp, it's kind of dull. So we're somewhere between a slitting punch and a slotting punch and a slitting chisel, using the term chisel quite loosely. Anyway, I'll poke a hole. I'm going to start over here. Whoa, that was a foggy. I'm going to start over here in the body of the anvil. I'm going to go through to about 80% from the top side, 70-80% from the top side, and then transfer to the back side, open up my slot, slit, and then clear my tool through over the hardy hole. And obviously if you're doing a larger one, you're going to need a larger orifice to clear over, and thus wage blocks. And this is going to be toasty. I'm just going to get my marker first. Setting that down, good mark. Notice how I'm walking it. Let's get a nice slit. Oh, that is toasty. I'm not keen about the flats. Again, that was an Asbury thing. And I think, you know, with all these tool philosophies, I think it's really important to try somebody else's design as they designed it, so that you can perhaps comprehend it in the way that they comprehend it. I don't think it's necessary to actually then stick to that philosophy, but if it suits you, absolutely do so. Right, what I'd like you to have a look at there, Jess, is the shape of the orifice that's forming. So you can see how the tool itself very much dictates that. So I widened the slit a little wider, and the other thing, if you have square edges on this, you get this like weird rag. So you can do round edges on your chisel, but you're going to get a weird rag. So this kind of slitting style is good when it comes to things like eyes, like narrow eyes. So have a play. I'm going to take. I'm going to have one more push from that side. Awesome scale building up there. I'm going to have one more push from that side. Start from the other side. Going to change my tones. It's always weird trying. So these, Mark Asbury, fabulous smith by the way, he holds his tool like this, in this like real soft pinch grip, which I completely understand, but for me it doesn't work. I actually like to be kind of at a 45 in my grip position. Just me. And also, he does that way to force his arm into true alignment, which is a great idea, and help you to index where these are because of your pinch grip. But again, my hand prefers to be at about, what's that, 7:30 kind of position. If that makes sense. Biggest thing on this is going to be lining up the backside. I'm hoping I'm going to get a good mark from the top side onto the backside because I didn't lay it out from underneath. Typically what I'd do is I would come in on the underside at the top side, measure everything out, transfer my lines around using small block squares, and I would lay out the bar with a center punch and a center punch, same on the underside of it, and then I would put a chisel incised in between. Typically the center punch that I use here is a squared, so like a pyramid topped center punch, because scale does not blister in a perfect little square. It will always blister in a round. So you can lose a center punch mark on the surface of the steel, especially if you're really heating it up. And I'd mark from the bottom side first and then go in about 10% from the top side, bottom side, flip it over, work from the other side, drive down deep. Because if you go straight from the top and only go from the top, by the time you get over to the bottom and you only had a very light cold incise on the underside, that generally gets messed up with scale and it all gets pounded in, you can't see it properly. So just little things that will help you find it. Also, if you're doing big stuff, get yourself a monster wire brush. This poor thing is becoming quite toothless. But these big wire brushes, or this style of wire brush, are really, really handy for getting that heavy scale off. And I'll probably give it a good scrub this time anyway. So that you're not getting a face full of scale, you're not losing your marks. I've become quite lazy, having used the gas forge for the last 15 years or so, that I don't wire brush as much as I used to. When you're using coal, you're always getting bits of coal stuck on your piece, so you have to give it a good brush. Gas, I've kind of got lazy, so I often work a little too scaly. You get a piece of that down your boot because I wear a frock, stupid. Anyway. If you've got a really stubborn piece, put a little bend in that material, because the scale is tougher than, or what do we say? It's more, what's the word for it, Jess? Give me a word.
It's harder?
Harder, yeah, sure. It's harder than the steel, so it doesn't flex well. So it'll actually break. Coming up at a little angle there to get into that corner, causing that corner to cut deep. I've got a nice dark line on that bottom side. Coming close now, Jess. See that? A nice dark line. Tells me I'm almost there. it over. And as I said, I would typically, I have no idea what that is. I would typically have an inside mark on that underside to line it up. Let's see if that's showed up a little better. Nah, not really. Alright, I'm gonna guess there. Maybe. Before I get too crazy, I'm going to drop out. This is what happens when you start ad hocing things. Of course, I trimmed my fingernails yesterday. Handy tool to have.
So ideally you would have done this before.
Yeah. So I'll mark that from this side. And I was way off. It was such a good idea that I didn't go through with that one. Check from the other side. It's actually almost centered on that thing. It's hilarious. And I know that my mark is somewhere between here and here because it's shiny. So I'm just going to put a little incise on that back side. Yeah, and obviously, you know, do good layout. This is me having a little happy little trees moment. Happy little trees, happy little lights it is. A nice little line laid in there. No, I'm going to have to do a pair of those as a class someday. Alright, so that's prepped out, laid out a little bit vaguely. Let's get it off. See if I can split it through. This kind of tool will detemper super fast because, you know, you're just jamming it through a big piece of metal and it's all being encompassed all the way around. Always, I would recommend always making your slit slightly longer than your tool so you don't get bound up in there. Maybe 10%, 15%. So if you're, you know, accordingly have a 1 inch wide tool, go to like 1 1/4 inch, something like that. It gives you a 25% addition. Okay. Where induction forges would be awesome. It's not forging. Chiseling works better hot. Remember when we were talking about the breakthrough with punching? You know, the punching, clearing the slug works better cold. Chiseling, slitting, works better hot. So make sure you got heat in it and you're not trying to stuff this thing through too cold, because remember this is a flow, right? So you want the material to flow out of the way, where punching is a shearing when it comes to clearing the slug. I think that's a pretty good heat for a start. What I'm hoping is that I'm actually aligned from the other side. See if I'm not. I'm now splitting. Ooh, hey look! It's the exciting bit. I always get excited when I see it. See the little hole? See it? but it's a big deal, okay? It's a miracle that you get even close to lined up. Right, that is good. So I've got a nice little line starting to form in there. Because my chisel isn't exactly sharp, it has a little flat on it, I do have a little touch of rag. Okay. So back into the foam. This time I'll go over the hardy hole and hopefully be able to clear this thing out. Do you have any thoughts, comments, questions? Just nothing. Any wisdoms from all the weird things over the years that we've seen people do? Carl, you're making me work for an answer here.
I mean, I guess the biggest thing is holding your tool in the right orientation. You know, a lot of times I see people when they go to make a slit, you know, they'll hold the chisel a little this way or a little that way, and it drifts. I myself am really, really bad about that.
Yeah, we all have a little lean to one
I'll
side.
end up, you know, I'll come in, you know, this direction from one side, and then
you're doing this kind of thing.
Yeah, so I just go all sideways. So having a spotter is really nice.
Yeah, if you got someone holding the material, they're
Yeah.
like, hey, left a bit, right a bit.
Yeah, right
forward
now
to back.
Mark is having to chase this material over the amble because I'm holding a camera, but normally I would hold it for him and be his spotter so that, you know, he's not
I'm
off
still
center.
trying to find a decent pair of tongs to grab a hold of this thing with. Oh, that's the baby. Look at this mangled up, messy thing. This might actually work. Yes. Look at that. So this is where you start modifying tools. I don't even know where this pair of tongs came from. I was probably given them. They're probably really old. But you know, you start making these like mangled little things to grab something peculiar with. But that's more solid than those. Wherever they go. All right, I reckon I'm about done. Let's get through this. And you can kind of get crazy on it and how clean you want to get these slits. How long is this opens up just? See it's starting to break through. I'm going to come to my near side a little bit, angle back. Solid from this side, give it a flip, flatten it down a bit, and there you go. You can see that rag, how it opens up and pulls out, and also the draft of the cut due to the geometry of the tool. Obviously a thing, so something to be aware of. Back in there. Tighter. There we go. There is a semblance of a slit.
So if that were, you know, an axe eye or something, you can come in and drift that out a little bit.
Yeah. Stretch it out a bit more. I'm going to leave it at that. I was going to go talk about, you know, dropping in the tool this way and hammering down on it, but it's not going to lock in well to any of the devices. But you get the basic idea of it. You got to work through from both sides. It kind of incisors out in the middle-ish. You do get a little bit of push. If you use a sharper tool, it will cut less and produce less rag, but at the same time, you're also going to probably blow out the temper a lot faster. So, things to think about. All right. well, that's enough of the mechanical principles. By the way, we have arguments every time about how principles is spelled. Probably if you look through all the videos, it's spelled different each time, or I've just got to the point where I just scribble so nobody can understand anyway. Go have a go at chiseling. Go have a go at chasing. Chasing being putting lines. Carving. Actually carve some material off. It's kind of a fun one. I haven't really shown that. Let's show it just on the edge of this right now. But doing a little bit of carving is kind of interesting what you can do. And you can do it cold or hot. Finding the right tool for the job for what you need to do is pretty dandy. But with the right tool, at the right temperature, it's just like wood carving. So I hope that'll give you a little bit of a basic. So you can literally do exactly what you do in wood carving, making tools for blacksmithing in the same shape as wood carving tools. So you want to do like a corner chisel, also make a corner chisel. Flat, square, tape it out on the inside. You want a gouge, make a gouge. Go for it. Doesn't make any difference, stick it in a swage block, follow it through. So, yep. Slitting. Slitting is a handy skill to have. And if you can slit, slot, and punch and drift, and chisel and chase, you can do all kinds of stuff that you wouldn't have otherwise been able to do if all you knew how to do was draw down tables. So, go for it. Have fun. Oh, wear a glove. The number of times you'll burn yourself, you'll slip, miss, hit your hand will slide down. First of all, you got a big bruise on the top of it because you know you weren't tickling that thing, and now you have a big brand on the underside. Sorry, wear it. It's way less painful and allows you to do far more work. Right.